All right, and we are live. So, hello everybody. How's everybody doing? It's been a long time since we did a stream. So, we just decided, in a sense, impromptu, that we're going to do something and we're going to come up with something. And so, on Mahadan's suggestion, we are going to do something about veganism, basically. So, we pulled out one video we thought we should assess the arguments within, and it's a vegan activist talking to Mansur of Dawa Vice. So before we do that, let me welcome my co-hosts Mahaden and Kali. It's been a long time, Mahaden and Kali. So good to see you guys. How are you guys doing?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm good. It's post Eid now, so everybody from
Yeah,
the
it's been the Ramzan period
Asian,
has been very
yeah,
busy. Yeah.
everybody from the Asian diaspora, Pakistani, Bangladeshi diaspora, and Indian, probably, irregardless of your religious convictions or beliefs, they've probably been somewhat associated with it. So yeah, let's see if that's had an effect on our mojo. I don't know if it has or not.
Right, right. And I hope that. Sorry, Kali, go ahead, and then I'm gonna.
No, I just wanted to say, yeah, it's nice to be back. I hope the audience as well as you guys are
So
doing well.
how much weight did you guys gain during the Ramzan period?
Well, I don't gain weight. I permanently have a metabolism that
Okay,
limits my weight
great, great,
forever.
great,
You know,
great.
I
God
u-
given.
I I used to have that metabolism. I used to have that metabolism where I used to lose weight in Ramzan, but now I try to keep it the same, so it was same.
Yeah.
All right, awesome, awesome, great. So yeah, I think before we start, I think you guys are okay. Before we start, do you guys want to add something on the title of the stream or about the video that we're gonna review, basically? If not, what I'm gonna do is, or before you do guys do that, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna plug in our English only channel right now. So what happened is, and this is for all the audience who's listening right now. As of now, there's nobody listening, but anybody who's gonna listen to the stream later on, for them, that we have a new channel, English only channel, and so we decided to split these two channels in Hindi, Urdu, and then English only channel, because what we thought was it was getting confusing for all the outsider, basically Western audience who wanted to listen to our stream, but were getting confused that seeing all those, and mostly we were streaming in Hindi, Urdu as well. So they probably were getting confused that this whether this channel is for them or not. So we decided that we're going to keep the English only channel. So everybody who's listening to this stream and they like they can appreciate our English streams as well, must subscribe to that channel as well. And at the same time, what we're going to do is we're going to probably for coming month or two, we're going to stream our English stream on both the channels. And today as well, we wanted to do that, but YouTube does not allow you to stream for probably 24 hours before it, assesses the channel and all those things. So yeah, anybody who's listening, I'm just gonna show you what that channel is, and so guys, subscribe to that channel. What I'm gonna do is probably I'm gonna change the banner as well and post that link to that channel. Can you guys see it? So this is the channel, that our new channel. It already has 5 uploads. What we're gonna do is we're gonna bring in all our English streams and the clips that we have uploaded from our English streams on this channel slowly, or however we feel comfortable about it. And then let's see how it goes, because what we are thinking of doing with this channel, as you guys know, that whenever so Mahadan is going to be a permanent feature in these streams, English only streams. And when Mahadan is there, you understand the texture of our streams. Basically, they are more philosophical, and so anybody who wants to see more and more deep philosophical ideas being tackled, then they can expect those to be happening on this one. And on this current channel, we're going to be dealing with Hindi, Urdu, and which are going to be probably more. Probably it's still going to be, we're still going to be tackling them philosophically, but not as deep ideas as we are probably going to be dealing in our Unveiling Faiths channel. So the names might change a bit or something like that, that we still have to decide it. We just came up with all those things. So, but first thing first, you got to do is you got to subscribe to this channel and spread the word as much as you can. Start commenting on the streams. Probably you've already seen these. If not, start commenting and liking and sharing. So guys, you're going to add anything to this already that I've said about this new channel, as well as if you want to say something about the video that we're going to review.
No, I think we'll continue to remind our audience throughout the stream that, don't forget to subscribe to our English channel. Just so that those who join late, they can actually,
definitely
be aware
we'll
of this.
keep doing that. We'll keep doing that.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So let's now. Yeah, Madan, go ahead.
No. I said that's all good. Yeah.
All right. Okay. So yeah, I have already put the basics ahead for this review. Basically, it's a vegan. The lady you see on the left side is a vegan activist, and she's confronting Mansur of the wife. And let's see who has better arguments here, and what do you guys think, basically, right? So, guys, shall we just jump in?
Yeah.
Find me, torture me, cut my hands off something, right? And consents to that. Are you saying it's okay?
I don't agree with that. I think that should be questioned. No, I don't think that's
So,
okay.
so it's not about consent then. So let's.
Do you think that animals?
You're not really responding and engaging with the questions.
Because
so if you have,
that I don't think it's relevant to veganism.
it's very important. If the issues, okay.
That I'm trying to convey.
Are you saying the animals give consent?
No.
Right. So is the issue about consent then?
Personally, I think
Not personally.
There is no way,
Objectively.
There is no way for us to know.
Just to please, can you stop here?
To a slaughterhouse myself and 2,000 pigs killed. And
Emotional argument again. Let's.
Philo, can you hear me? Yes.
Yeah. Kelly, sorry.
So this is how the video starts, actually.
Yeah, this is just where the
Quite
video
strange.
starts. Probably they it seems like there is a clipping of some content, because he's talking about crucifixion and all.
So,
crucifying and all those things, basically.
No, but it seems that the topic of veganism I'm getting feedback, Madan.
Madan,
okay.
Feedback from your side.
Yeah. So it seems that the topic of veganism had already started, and this is midway between that. Already, I think at least a few minutes have already been since the topic of veganism started, and it seems that the lady. Now we can only guess what the conversation has already, what conversation has already happened.
Yeah, so some
and
part
I'm
of
guessing,
the conversation has already taken place, right?
Exactly.
Like
so I'm guessing what she said is that we are doing all these things to animals without getting their consent. And Mansur is trying to come up with some sort of an excuse and he's trying to use an analogy where probably a doctor cut off another human's hand for any surgical purpose. Maybe there's some sort of an infection that might spread. So he's trying to bring up an excuse, maybe that we could have good reasons to do something, or to cut off a human hand without their obtaining their consent, and and it would still be justified. So I'm guessing that is the conversation. Do you think that is what the conversation, or that is the point that Mansur is raising?
Can you play it again? Can you play it again?
Let's start it again.
Similar to that.
Let's start it again. Let's start it again, just to make sure that Yeah. It seems that is what he's saying. Let's start it again.
And consents to that. Are you saying it's okay? Cut my hands off something. And crucify me, torture me, cut my hands off something, right? And consents to that. Are you saying it's okay?
Okay, do you want to pause it?
I think that should be questioned.
Oh no, it's not. Yeah, pause. Yeah, there's
He's
something else.
I was
something else.
Yeah. So when Kylie, you gave the doctor analogy, I thought it was, I thought I heard wrong then. That's why I wanted to play it again first. But my initial assumption seems, he's saying that clearly consent in those circumstances doesn't empower anybody to commit torture or crucifixion, right? Consent. So it's not about consent. So he's coming up with your point, Kylie, that you're saying would be more relevant, I think. All right.
Exactly. I'm not sure why he's bringing that up. This particular example. Maybe he has some point. We'll still have to see what. And the lady does say that it is not relevant. She seems to be of that view. But let's listen to what he's trying to say. I guess.
Just for the audience, because his point can actually empower the vegan here. Because if it is the case that at certain circumstances, even where consent is given, it is illegitimate, inappropriate, immoral to perform an action, then that creates at least a theoretical possibility that maybe you could say the same for certain animals who consent, right? Because if it is the case that it's wrong to chop off somebody's arm, then maybe it would be wrong for an animal which could consent, let's say hypothetically, in theory, consent to be eaten, right? Maybe that would be wrong, right? So the vegan's argument, so if Mansur is saying that consent is not necessary sometimes, that's true, but consent is also necessary on other times. So they're talking past each other, really. I think the vegan should not.
I think Mansur is, at this point, Mansur is trying to figure out what veganism's main objection is, basically, right? Whether their objection is consent, whether their objection is suffering, whether their objection is something
seems to be
else.
the case.
So he's trying to pin down what, and I think where Mansur might be, slight bit mistaken is it's not just one factor. I think probably we'll get to listen to some other arguments from this lady as well. But that's what my take is, right? And this crucifixion thing is probably just trying to get whether the consent. If somebody gives you a consent, would you be in your rights to torture them or something like that?
Exactly.
That's probably the question he's raising.
Let me just be a little bit more less charitable here, though. I think Mansur is simply just trying to create confusion and maybe find
maybe
just create confusion and create maybe a sense of incoherence.
That's a possibility. I think,
create a sense of incoherence or contradiction or something that is unprincipled within the vegan's position, right? And look, your position itself is not consistent. So the consent isn't this remarkable thing, powerful thing. Plus, I think certain Muslims actually have an issue with consent because they don't believe consent can be this automatic grantor for anything. Anything goes. Like, it's not, as long as there is consent. So they're attacking the notion of consent. But you don't have to accept this kind of notion of consent. You have just to clarify. Some moral secularists do believe that consent, like a libertarian, a very strict, rigid libertarian, they may actually think, yes, consent allows and empowers the individual to do what they want with their autonomy. And if you want your arms chopped off, then so be it. And others are a bit more restrained, right? You can say that consent isn't the only thing, simply because we make decisions in our temporary nature. We may reverse those decisions. We may change our mind, and certain permanent and irreversible decisions that have humongous impact on your humanity might even be ill-considered, even if there's consent, right? So so something as serious as suicide, you might need greater safeguards from the state, and not any form of consent. You might need strong consent, like informed consent, considered consent, in addition to medical supervision and all this stuff. See, it's not just one size fits all answer, one answer that fits all the circumstances or anything like that. And there's different views on this. So I don't exactly know what Mansur would gain out of this exactly.
And I think and I think there you seem to be correct that he's just trying to confuse his opponent as to
that's what they
just
call
pointing out
muddying
some
the
sort of
waters.
just trying to point out some sort of an inconsistency that this principle is not you're not applying it consistently. Consent doesn't matter. So I think you might be right over there.
Yeah, I mean, because consent matters even within Islam, but it doesn't matter in other circumstances. So there's no
Right.
issue with issue with this having multifaceted notion of consent, where in certain circumstances consent is okay. For example, you need the consent to marry. I suspect that's a lot of Muslims would say. I mean, I know there's difficulties in that one.
I think
Let's just be charitable.
Yeah,
Let's just be charitable and assume this for a while. Yes.
Yeah. As you said there are levels to it, by the way. Yeah.
Exactly. So you can think of any other circumstances. For example, if a Muslim is asked, do you need to give your money apart from zakat and sadaqah? You're not obligated to give your money to anybody for no reason, but you can do if there's consent, like a contract, an agreement, right? But then there might be certain circumstances where you can't give consent, which is you can't consensually engage in public sex, right? Despite the consent, there's extraneous variables, right? Which is the wrongness of the action in public that limits the consent can't make that correct. So clearly, even in the Islamic hemisphere, there is certain situation where consent is the reason, or maybe the sole reason, why the conduct is legal and legitimate. Where, for example, you give money to somebody, without your consent, it'll be theft to take money from another person. But if there is consent, it's like a legal transaction or whatever you want to call it, or a gift. Yeah. Whereas in other circumstances, consent in itself won't work. So there's no inconsistency there. So is there? No, there isn't. So clearly within the secular hemisphere as well, you can have certain situations where consent is okay, in other situations where consent is not enough.
Right. All right. Let's hear a little bit more ahead and see where this gets to, basically, right? Where Mansur is trying us to get to, basically.
So it's not about consent then. So let's
do you think that animals
you're not really responding and engaging with the questions. So if you have,
that I don't think is relevant to veganism.
it's very important. If the issues, okay,
that I'm trying to convey.
are you saying the animals give consent?
No.
Right. So is the issue about consent then?
Personally, I think
Not personally,
there's no way,
objectively.
there is no way for us to know whether animals consent. I mean, as someone who has been to a slaughterhouse myself and seen 2,000 pigs killed in a
Emotional argument again. Let's stick to the points.
do you
Can you not be emotional and just let's discuss this on an intellectual level?
way to take away the life of an animal that
You
wants
see,
to live?
you're again bringing up some red herrings and strawmans. Let's deal with the subject matter.
I'm talking about veganism.
I'm talking about your objection to consuming meat, because what it is, you are actually making those animals that you are trying to consume suffer pain. Right. So, are you saying if an animal were to consent, it's okay? Is that what you're saying?
That's a ridiculous argument to make. I don't think that's
So the issue is not about consent then?
into it at all.
Good.
I think that we're talking about taking away the lives of non-human animals that do not have the ability to consent.
Okay.
These-
Have you stopped all the lions eating the zebras?
Okay. If you see a gazelle running down the street, is your instinct to run after it and tear into its flesh with your
Do you
venom?
hear my question?
Is that your instinct?
No. My instinct is for you to respond that when you see a lion running after a deer or a zebra, are you stopping that? And would you stop it?
Because they are.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
All right. I think it's a very similar point to before, but this time it's the issue of consent. So you can make an argument like this. I'm not. Maybe she didn't articulate herself properly. It's not that consent is what makes it correct. She may have said something like, "It's wrong to kill others with it's wrong to kill another being, right? Unjustified killing is wrong, right? Not that consent necessarily makes it correct. You can have in the same sense that you might say murder of another human being is wrong, right? Murder is another human being is wrong. Murder of a baby is wrong. A baby who doesn't agree to have his life taken away. So then does Mansur agree with that? Mansur probably does agree with that, right? Murder of a baby is wrong, and then you can have a similar statement, which is murder of a baby is wrong, especially one where a baby doesn't agree to have his life taken away. Now, the second sort of statement Mansur might object to, but he doesn't object to the first statement, right? Murder of a baby is wrong, with or without consent. Okay, so if he accepts the first type of statement, murder of a baby is wrong, with or without the consent of the baby. So it doesn't matter if the baby consents or can consent or hypothetically just somehow manage to consent. It's wrong to kill a baby. If he agrees with that, that's all what the vegan needs to say. Is this, you adopt the same analogy and apply it to animals, right? This little fight over consent is unnecessary. So this is just poor. Mansur is creating the red herring himself, I think, right? He's just biting onto this word consent when it's not necessary, really, right?
Right. I think he's.
Yeah, because if he agrees with the idea that murdering is wrong, that's all you need. Yeah, if he's trying to say you can't just consent to one's extreme suffering, then that doesn't take away from the vegan. It's still consistent with veganism. It's still consistent with her position, right? Her position is actually weakened, right? If she says murder of people or sentient beings is wrong unless if they consent, in some sense, in the sense that he may be able to then try to figure out a way where they do consent. But if you want to be like an absolute vegan, like a very headstrong vegan where you just really want to protect the rights of animals, then saying something like it is wrong even if the animal can consent, even if the animal could consent, it'll be wrong to murder an animal. That if anything, that strengthens the vegan's position. Right? So Mansur is having quibbling over this kind of thing that he doesn't realize is not that relevant. And she's correct to say that. She's not articulating it properly why. But Mansur is quibbling over this unnecessary ingredient. Right? And that's what I want to say for that.
I think, as you said, Mahadan, that's exactly what Mansur is preying on, because she hasn't articulated her position as well, probably. I mean, she could very well strengthen her position by saying, it doesn't matter. Just like a baby, as you said earlier, even if there is a consent, of course, babies can't give a consent pretty much, right? But you can take up a case of, somebody who's, giving a permission, okay, you can kill me pretty much, right? Even in that case, you probably wouldn't do it, basically, right? And there are laws against this in most of the countries where, euthanasia is allowed, but then there are very severe, it goes through a severe scrutiny whether that is permissible or not. So you can
just to clarify, you can be a vegan and be against euthanasia. You can be a vegan and be against consenting to horrific or horrendous forms of torture or suffering or death. Right. There's no inconsistency or contradiction. Right? Where's the contradiction with veganism? There isn't. A vegan philosophy which wants to say that suffering of animals is wrong for no good reason, no good moral reason, and suffering for animals or death against animals is wrong for no good moral reason, and simultaneously says euthanasia is wrong, and consenting to barbaric forms of mutilation is wrong, consenting to torture is wrong. Yeah, even where the person, like a libertarian, says to his friend, his compatriot, you can eat me, you can eat my arm. No, we should get laws to stop that from happening. Right? Those positions are completely consistent. There's no principled contradiction inherently within those positions. It just means that you think killing and harming animals is wrong, etc. And you think even if the animal could consent, forget the animal for now. Let's say even if a human could consent to him being killed or him undergoing real suffering, is still wrong in that circumstances. You might have other circumstances where killing might be right, like self-defense, right, or war, but consenting to death Even during euthanasia might be wrong. That could be for completely different reasons, right? It could be the same reasons why many religious people think life should not be given up like that, right? Very similar. Very similar. Obviously, it can't be the same one because you're not thinking about God, divine command theory, or hell and heaven and so on, the continuation. But it could be a similar one in the sense that you think the preciousness of life outweighs your temporary struggle or something like that. Right? There's no inconsistency in these positions.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I agree. I mean, in this case, even if the strongest case is taken, then yes, I mean, the consent is probably Mansur is only using it to muddy the waters, basically.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I agree.
Agreed.
Obligate carnivores, they do it out of necessity to survive.
Okay, good. Now we're moving on. So your question, so your argument for veganism,
in order for our own benefit.
let's understand that. So your argument for veganism is as long as it's for necessity, it's okay.
Yes.
If it's not necessity,
If it's out of necessity,
No.
yes, it's okay.
you can eat, for example, if there's no plant products and there's only chicken, then yeah, out of necessity, you should eat chicken.
Yes,
Yeah?
I'm completely fine with that.
Right.
I
Is that
don't
what you say?
in that.
Yeah? So actually, you're not actually saying everyone should be a vegan as long as you don't, as long as you don't suffer the animal, you don't just, eat out of luxury, yeah, for good taste. You're saying it's okay to be a carnivore.
I think that if we're doing it out of necessity,
This is the only reason,
then
my
it's
friend.
not a
This
moral
sign is
issue.
the only reason. Okay,
Right?
you're overcomplicating it.
Yeah. So actually, I don't have a problem with that. In fact, I would say people are actually harming and suffering the animals too much, and that needs to stop.
Yeah.
Not only during transportation, not only during raising them and breeding them.
So why are
There's
we
too much.
doing it?
Wait a second. Let's deal with the real issue. So now, this is what we're talking about. We're talking about people are actually suffering, causing the animals to suffer.
Can you just pause it?
So why don't you go one step further and say, look, plants
What is he
also feel
blabbering
pain.
about?
Yeah.
Pause it. What the hell is he talking about? He's not making any point.
This is what
He's trying to get to the necessity part, but he's muddying the waters, basically.
No. This is what I wanted to say. You guys have the same thought. What is he blabbering about? You know what I just realized? I realized it ages ago. He loves to be in control of the conversation and dominant. He wants to set the goalpost, the direction. So anybody who speaks to Mansur, you should just talk over him and not let him do that. You set the goalposts. You set the narrative. If you let him take control, he'll take you in a different direction where it's not necessary, right? So he sounds good, right? So one strategy to control his little game is simply not let him take the lead. Look, she's following his lead as though he's playing a magic trick and she's the audience, and he's going to eventually reveal.
Yeah, agreed. He's guiding the game, basically.
Eventually he's going to pull something out of his pocket like a rabbit and go, ha! Your argument is bad. But that's what you shouldn't let him do. You should, once he's finished talking, tell him to shut up so that you have your chance, right? What you shouldn't do is let him be the detective and you be the criminal or something what he's interrogating. That's what it seems like.
Don't let him be the driver, basically.
Yeah.
Yes,
I mean, the point is this. He is just. The argument that the vegan is trying to make is very simple. Don't take an animal's life until it's necessary. Simple point. No complications required. There's no complication in it. And Mansur is trying to no. Then you are. He's just trying to make this very difficult. Sort of a very technical point out of it. But the thing is that he agrees with that very point when it comes to humans as well. For example, according to Islamic view, and I think even most people would subscribe to it. If a mother who's pregnant, her life is in danger because of her child, let's say, and any one of the two lives can be saved, then you can choose to let the baby die and save the woman. This is completely acceptable in Islam. Now, if you say this and then you try, and based on that logic, you try to, okay, then you try to bring up this technical logic out of it and try to complicate it by saying, okay, then you are agreeing that you could kill a human. But no, it's simple. You can kill when it's necessary. That's all. I think, and it should be simple enough for him to
Yeah,
understand. But despite the fact that he himself, his own worldview allows this kind of logic, he would not agree with when it comes with this same logic when it comes to veganism, because it does not align with his worldview. That's all.
yeah, exactly. So he's trying to make it out like, aha, but you've got all these exceptions, or if that's what he's saying, you've got this exception or this or that. But Islam is full of these exceptions. They pridefully, gleefully say it. I mean, you can have pork if you're within the circumstances where you will starve, you're malnourished
Exactly.
in the desert.
Exactly.
You can drink alcohol if you need to for medical purposes, etc. You can. There's plenty of things.
Even collateral damage,
Yes.
Even
human collateral
lying
damage is
about your
allowed in Islam, because it's understandable that you might, some innocent lives might might be lost in a war, but since it's for a greater good, well, you say, well, this is something that cannot be avoided. That's the simple logic that we are talking about. There are exceptions, yes, but you will not draw out a rule from it. Okay, then
Yes.
since there is an exception, then you can then it's open game. Now you can kill any animal. No, that's what the vegan is trying to say.
Exactly. So he already accepts things like there are general rules, principles that you abide by, but there are certain circumstances where they are exempt. There are exceptional circumstances, but that does not, just to be clear for our audience, that does not mean that the general rule is therefore false, because general rules apply in general circumstances. Outside of those circumstances, every single legal system, ethical system almost has the same identical format. Some people believe in absolute rules, but most legal systems and moral systems make way and accommodate exceptions to the rule in certain circumstances for many things, right? For many things, drinking under the influence of alcohol is wrong, but in certain circumstances, emergencies, you can get behind a car and get in. Yeah, you might justify what otherwise would be a crime, right? So every single legal system, almost all legal systems. So unless you're a moral absolutist.
So Madan, here's the biggest one amongst all. If your life is under threat, you're even allowed to do shirk. Basically, you can say you don't believe in Allah. Basically, that's perfectly fine. So there is always exception to the rule, and even the biggest one, pretty much, even the biggest one, probably.
Exactly. And so if this is a flaw against this lady's veganism argument, then the mere fact that there's an exception, if that's what he's trying to say, or there's it's not a flaw in the system. It's rather it shows that it's a coherent, flexible moral system, just like any other moral system, because sometimes you need exceptions to the rule. Simple as that. And she is not being inconsistent with. I hope so. I hope she makes an argument where it's like the following, where all sentient creatures has a right to life as long as they can suffer and so on. If that's the case, then she's not discriminating between humans and non-human animals. And here's the thing: if that's the case, then in order for her to be consistent, she may have a similar rule applicable to humans as well. There are differences of opinion in respect to this in law. But for example, there's a legal defense of necessity. And under the legal defense of necessity, there are circumstances in which you may even be able to kill another human being deliberately, not out of self-defense, as in you are being attacked by somebody else and therefore, or somebody else is being attacked by another person and their life is at risk, and therefore they defend themselves with an intention to kill, defend themselves with lethal force. Not just that, it's where you are about to die. Yeah, let's say you're stranded on a ship and you're about to die, and unless you kill the other person for whatever reason, in order to maybe to eat his organs, engage in cannibalism, unless you kill him and have his body for food, you will die. In those circumstances, different moral philosophers and legal positions, at this moment, it's illegal in the UK, but there are arguments suggesting that it should be legal where it is necessary to survive, right? So there are a great deal of arguments describing the necessity of defending the necessity of killing in certain circumstances, especially when if you don't kill, you will die. And in order for her to be consistent, that unless she makes a good distinction between non-human animals and humans, if our argument is that all sentient creatures have a right to life, despite differences in consciousness, abilities, talents, aptitude, mental ability, then she's not making a distinction no longer between the species human and non-human animals, not of those of a different species. And therefore, if she says something like, we can eat animals when there is a risk of death to us in order to survive, then she may have to consistently, unfortunately, it's a tough problem for her. She may need to extend the same rationale to humans as well, right?
Exactly.
Because,
I mean, to be consistent, she has to agree to that as well. But I mean, see, you can have your own philosophy. Slight bit, when you say I'm a humanist, maybe I'm gonna favor humans more. But then when you are a vegan, you don't have that choice. You have already made your case that you consider them to be equal with humans. Now you can't make that case that I'm just only gonna eat animals when it's absolutely necessary, but not humans when it's absolutely necessary. You can't, as you said, you can't just distinguish between these two cases once you have committed to that position.
That's what Kylie, you finish off.
Sure. Yeah, I just wanted to comment on that as well, that even if she holds humans in a special place, maybe I think that is, to an extent, I think it is justifiable based on, for example, let's say that you have your family. You always prefer your own family. Given circumstances, if you have to save two people, you will choose your family always. So now, humans being your extended family, you could say that, okay, given I have to choose between a human life and an animal life, I would always choose a human. But still, you would say that unless there is this is only in these dire circumstances where I have to choose between the two. Otherwise, I would value both lives if I can. That I think it is a justifiable and consistent position. It's not inconsistent, don't you think?
Yeah, but I think the example that you've given is a bit slightly different from in the frame of mind I'm thinking about it. So, in a situation where you have to choose between your family and other people, you may prefer your family, and you might be morally justified in doing so. All things being equal, some philosophers would disagree with that. If your family's interests are far more limited, and the other person, so let's say you had a choice between giving food to your family versus giving food to a starving person, then the interest of the starving person would override the interest of your family.
Yes, but then it would not be the same, right?
Yeah, no. So, but on the other hand, if your family member was starving and the stranger was starving, and it's equal, then some philosophers would say then you should prioritize your family, right? In those sort of circumstances. But in the case of animals, yeah, I mean, if the animals are if your family member is suffering, an animal is suffering, the same can apply. But there could be additional reasons why it should apply, even beyond that. Let's say your family member is not starving as much as the animal. You may still give more regard to your family member simply because, here's the thing, when we say give equal consideration, it means give equal consideration, not necessarily that they're equal, right? What it means is something like the following. If there are differences in aptitude and so on, of course you will prioritize in that situation the differences in consciousness. So if a human being suffering is going to be more horrendous than an animal suffering, right? Then of course you should make that distinction, right? Because the animal has less consciousness and so on. and the human being has a multi-layered consciousness, and it'll be more, is greater. So when there's areas of conflict like that, you should prioritize it, right? But the point is of the equal consideration aspect is to get rid of the species boundaries. The point is that same rationale can apply to humans as well. And that's the point. So imagine there's two humans. One has a mental disability and another one doesn't. And this is your family member, right? And well, it doesn't even have to be your family member, and you have to choose between one of the two to help. Well, it could very well be in that circumstance, even though each one has an equal right in law and is equally recognized and it has equal moral and legal safeguards. Yeah, it could be in that circumstance of conflict that you prioritize the one who has a greater capacity to suffer, which might be the healthier person, the person with a disability. You know, if he's significantly disabled, then let's say you have to distribute your resources in a particular way, then you will prefer the person who's not disabled, simply because his life would be worse off than compared to the one with the disability. Now, if that's the kind of outlook that you have, then when we say equal consideration, we just mean that the same principle of how we discriminate between the different consciousness as we do within humans, we should do also within animals, right? So if it's a human and a human, consciousness differences, we may prioritize the one with the greater consciousness. But the same thing applies to animal and human. There's no distinction. A non-human animal and a human, they're all in the same boat in this regard, right? Can you see what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Yes.
I think I already agreed to it. I already agreed to it. I think that's the distinction, basically, right? I think it's the position once you are committed to the position of veganism. I think that's where you, at least from the consistency point of view, you should be taking them on the equal keel, basically. Right? If I
Just to clarify, it depends on what sort of vegan you are. You might not be a vegan who thinks that animals deserve equal rights. You might think animals deserve a lot more rights, and that encompasses a right to life. That encompasses a right not to undergo suffering for no good moral reason. But you may think a good moral reason is food consumption to survive. And you might think, although animals do have a right to not be interfered with for no good moral reason, primarily that one, which is that to be eaten for pleasure outside of circumstances of survival, you can't have the same for humans. You can't have the same sort of moral justification for humans where you can eat them for survival purposes, right? And that could be because you might think humans in general are of a higher moral status than animals in general. If you're that type of vegan, it's hard to justify that as to why you'd think that. But if that's what you think, then you can still be a vegan, and whilst also being also not applying the same consistent rationales of killing for necessity purposes. You don't need to apply that in the context of humans, because you think humans have special status. Human life has more.
I agree.
Right?
Yes, I agree.
Yeah. Basically, what I'm trying to say in this circumstances, it could be that even if the animals have less value compared to humans, animals still have more value than your taste buds. You see that?
Right. I think
exactly.
I agree to that
exactly
point.
that,
Yeah.
and that should be the focus. That an animal's life in any ways, ignoring all the situations where all the dire situations or very special circumstances. The point that is being made is, if you cannot justify anything else, let's just focus on the fact that just killing an animal for the sake of your taste buds, let's stop doing that if we can, or at least consider it morally superior to eating animals, to those who are actually doing it.
can't we say that that's the base vegan position? You know, that's the first level of vegan position. You know, veganism only
Exactly.
goes higher up from there, that
Exactly.
point on,
Yes.
basically, right?
Yes.
That's the first level of veganism, right? Then
First
you
level
have
of veganism.
another like 8 levels, 9 levels, and what Mahadin and I were talking about probably was level 9, where animals are probably co-equal with humans, pretty much, right? Whatever you apply. Once you reach to that position, probably whatever principle you apply to humans, then you have to equally apply to that to animals as well, and vice versa, pretty much.
Yeah. So the type of thing that I was thinking about is the speciesist arguments, right? People,
Right. In that case, you merge the two. Basically, there's no
yeah,
distinction between the two, pretty much.
yeah.
Right?
The Peter Singer type arguments, where Peter Singer argues that it is speciesism to make an unnecessary distinction between the rights that we bestow to humans and the rights that we bestow to animals. So if for no good reason we don't extend rights to animals, then it's speciesism, which is similar to racism. Just like a black person and a white person, the mere fact that a person is black, an arbitrary feature of him, does not deny him a right to life, a right to vote, a right to privacy, etc. Reason being, the blackness of his skin or the whiteness of his skin has little to no value or relevance to his capacity to suffer. Yeah, it's arbitrary in the sense that it's not necessary. It has no necessary moral link or something like that. And he extends that same rationale and says that in order, just like the distinction between the black and the white person, we call it racism. The distinction between a chicken and a human, to over prioritize a person's humanity and say that because you're human you have rights. It's like the arbitrary skin color thing. Because you're white you have rights. Well, why should whiteness give you rights? It's arbitrary. So why should humanity give you rights, right? What is it? Is it the mere fact that you're a member of the Homo sapien species? Well, Peter Singer says no. It's to do with the fact that you can think and suffer and feel, etc. If you weren't Homo sapien, if you were an alien and you are in every other respect almost identical in your consciousness, right? But you're just not a Homo sapien. Well, we won't simply say, oh, you're an alien and you're not a human, and therefore you're not going to be given the right to life. It'll be racist or speciesist to do so. It's discriminating because of their species. And it's the same thing here. But
yeah, and the contrary would be expected from them as well, that our right to life, basically, if they come to annihilate us or something like that.
Yeah,
I see that point, right?
Yeah, and if you're making that sort of argument where you completely eradicate the species boundaries and you're just looking at the capacities and so on, then in similar circumstances, even when it comes to humans, we need to be consistent. So Peter Singer eventually goes to make the argument that if humans with XYZ capacity has these rights, and animals of XYZ capacity, identical capacities, should also therefore have those same rights. If you're operating under that sort of logic, then yes, when therefore in the reverse, if animals of XYZ capacities we can rightfully kill in circumstances of survival, then yes, in that circumstance, to be consistent, you may need to apply to humans, because if when humans are of XYZ capacity are in circumstances of survival, then they may be able to also kill to survive.
Right,
yeah.
right. I mean, yeah, it sounds like a really radical kind of, your intuitions probably wouldn't allow such kind of consequences from this kind of theory, pretty much, right? I mean, people would be, what do you call, really taken aback by this kind of a conclusion, right? That are you allowed to kill animals? Do you really think? Because at that point, they're probably emotions are gonna kick in, and they're gonna say, no, we for us, humanity is our family, and humanity is higher than animals and all this. But if you, as you said, and as you quoted Peter Singer saying, if you want to really be consistent, probably that's the conclusion you'll reach pretty much. All right, Kelly, you want to add something, or shall we move on with the video?
No, let's move on.
Because they respond to pain stimulus. So why don't you stop eating plants? Why don't you go one step further and say, look, plants also feel pain because they respond to pain stimulus. So why don't you stop eating plants?
Plants do not feel pain. Okay.
Again, there has been already Nobel Prizes won on this issue by Mr. Boshu, right? That animals, just like plants,
Say that they do feel pain.
plants.
Do you realize that?
Okay, whose name he took? Who was this guy who did this study? Mr. Bullshit? What did I hear that right? Sorry, just want to be funny here. But okay, I mean, there have been studies done on plants, and they do respond to the stimuli. But I mean, okay, let's forget about those animals. Plants feel pain. One of the things you can always argue against that by saying that some of these frugivore, what do you call, fruit-bearing plants, they produce seeds so that animals can eat them and spread their seeds elsewhere, right? So not necessarily, you can always eat those, fruits and whatever vegetables are there, right? And one more thing, that when you kill an animal, the animal limb doesn't grow up. Basically, if you cut a plant, probably plants regrow up, basically, right? So even if they have a little bit of suffering, which you can claim that for which there's no substantial evidence for, but you can still say they can regrow and they can be healthy back again. But that's not the same case with animals, right? Once they die, they are dead and done, basically. So that would be my argument against, this, I think, pretty superficial argument from Mansur, I guess. You guys want to add something to it? Or?
This is like Mansur is saying a typical kind of crazy, silly objection that everybody kind of spouts. It's borderline nonsense now. Literally, it's just everybody from Tom, Dick, and Harry says this in every situation, that you should not eat plants. I don't know what's the purpose of that, because
I
it's
think
not. Go on.
Madhan, sorry to interrupt you. There have been so many studies like these, and there is a group of people who are doing some crazy studies. I heard about one study where some, what are Nobel Prizes, basically? It's, a mockery of Nobel Prizes, basically, the worst kind of a research that's been done in science, basically. So I read about one experiment where this guy put two plants, and maybe it might have been a serious study, but I thought probably it deserved a mention in Ig Nobel Prizes probably. And what he did was took two similar plants, and at one of the plants he started shouting and cursing and all those things, and the other plant sang nice songs and all those things. And the study showed that one of the plants, which was cursed and shouted at and all those things, started not growing up as well, or died pretty much, and the other one flourished or something like that. So you kind of hear these kind of studies as well, pretty much. Anyway, I think I took it too deep into this plant feeling pain and suffering and all those things. But these, I just wanted to showcase that these studies probably are not conclusive, including the ones that I mentioned. The kind of like, I digressed a little bit, but just wanted to mention those things. So yeah, these studies have no substantial reason to believe that they are true, pretty much. Sorry, I stopped you in between.
Yeah. So I mean, like, people have been taught. They always mention the things about plants, and they have the capacity to feel pain, and they can suffer or something like that, which is borderline pseudoscience, right? It's literally a figment of one's imagination to create this. There's nothing. There is nothing of any significance at all. This is not just merely a hand waving away potential studies or anything like that. It's literally not even a fraction a tiny microcosm of the literature suggesting anything like that. It's really fanciful stuff. Nothing like that has ever been written or in a serious publication or anything like that, other than fancifully speculating, you know. And the reason for that, and the reason why we can be quite assured that plants don't feel pain is first of all the reasons that Mansur is giving, and the reason why other people give, like plants have defense mechanisms, or plants can move, or plants can produce respond to stimuli. It's a bit of a misuse of the jargon. When plants respond to stimuli, it's very similar to when bacteria responds to stimuli, right? When plants have defense mechanisms, it's very similar to bacteria have defense mechanisms, or when they move, is similar to when bacteria. There's plenty of living things like living cells, amoeba, and so on that can move and respond to their environment that don't have sentience or consciousness, and we know this quite positively or strongly, simply because the things that we use to infer consciousness are not present in these other lower level organisms, right? Otherwise, secular philosophy would be inconsistent to think plants do have consciousness. Now, again, I'm not saying that there can't be any future possibility where we may learn more, but that can be said about anything. Currently, plants don't have a central nervous system. They don't have a real peripheral nervous system. They don't have a sophisticated brain or a cerebral cortex, right? And those are usually the things that we look for, or functional equivalents with the same level of sophistication. And plants have neither of them. The identical neurostructure or a functional equivalent, right? And until and unless we have some strong evidence and then a consensus that gets generated, we don't just look at single studies or anything like that. A consensus, a real consensus to rewrite knowledge. That's the position. So this is a very common talking point against vegan arguments that plants feel pain. But let's bite the bullet for a minute. If that was the case, it doesn't necessarily defeat veganism, because I don't see why it would, because it will just extend the horizon of the number of things that are capable of suffering, right? Most well thought out vegan philosophies usually don't say that you have to be vegan in all circumstances. Remember, so we're not talking in absolutes. It's usually to minimize as much of suffering as reasonably possible, and only do so if it's necessary. And if it's the case that plants can suffer as well, that will still hold true. It'll just be that plants now enter the equation of that harm minimization, harm reduction calculus. And then you can ask, how can we live a life where we reduce reduced impact to both plants and animal kind and humans, right? And live like that. And what would be the best way to organize a life to do that? Yeah, and unless Mansur's arguments show that by just mentioning this thing about plants, that he can just continue living the way he is as a carnivore, then the vegan will still have a point. Because if the vegan makes that point that you still will need to minimize a lot of the factory farming, minimize a lot of the food consumption, minimize Eid, slaughter, etc. But in addition to that, you have to also minimize a lot of the plant consumption, outside of survival reasons. So eat as much as necessary, but not anymore, or something like that. Or pick the plants that suffer the least. Then that's the sort of conversation an honest ethical person would be having. What is Mansur doing? He's just trying to find a weird inconsistency. He's not honest, because it's like a reductive argument. He's trying to show that your position will lead to this ridiculous conclusion that even you can't eat plants, right? That's only attractive insofar the reductor go through. You could reject the reductor. You could say, for example, and it's only because the reductor is only crazy because we know it's false. Yeah, we know plants don't suffer. But imagine if it was the case that we learned since the moment we were born, we knew animals suffer, humans suffer, plants suffer. Maybe we would be living in a different world today, where the crazy would become the norm, where people would be talking about regulating and minimizing, and we kind of do have that, environmentalism and so on. the environmentalists' argument will have even more backing this time, because maybe stuff like forests can suffer now. Climate activists will have even stronger arguments, and it'll be like that. And go on.
Madhan, one of the things, I mean, this argument, once Mansur commits to this argument that even plants can suffer, this is going to be seriously undermining his own theistic position, basically. And the theistic position that he holds on to is that my God is good, basically. Now, consider this for a moment. Why would a God create a world where every living being, for his own existence, to worship that one and only true God, he has to live his whole life by making others suffer, right? If he eats an animal, another animal, that's suffering involved. If he eats another plant, that's again a suffering involved. Where is this good God, basically, right? I mean, where everything created is suffering, basically, because of somebody else, invoking that kind of a suffering on that particular species or plant, right? So his position that everything suffers, even the plant, is going to seriously undermine his own position, basically, in my opinion.
Yeah, it might strengthen. It will definitely strengthen the problem of evil, right?
Right.
It will strengthen the problem of evil. Yeah, but he might sacrifice that. He might think that the problem of evil, despite how evil, because he probably believes God can do anything he wants. He probably believes in skeptical theism. He probably thinks that everything happens for a greater good. So if he believes like an infinite God has an infinite card with infinite explanations to explain all the infinity of problems, then the fact that we might have trillions of plants, more than trillion, I don't even know what the number would be in the history of humanity, but we have a very large number of vegetation would have no effect at all in his mind, because if God is just the master of all and he's got good explanations, he's going to be able to explain all of that. So maybe that's or he just probably didn't think about it that far, but I think that's what he would kind of say, right?
I don't think he has thought that far very much, because he would realize that his borderline absurd conclusions, basically. Anyway, Kylie, you want to add something to it? Kylie is missing.
Kylie's eating his plants. Kylie just realized that he's been murdering plants all this time.
Kylie said, forget about the plants. If there's suffering involved in plants, I'm going back to my, chicken tikka masala.
Yeah, well, I mean, it doesn't make sense, right? Plants suffer, therefore kill chickens. That's the argument. Mansur said, yeah. So we're saying don't kill chickens for no reason if you don't have to. And his response is plants suffer too, therefore kill chickens.
Kill chicken?
Like, since plants also suffer, therefore we can also kill chickens.
Right. I mean, I think you expressed that sentiment pretty clearly, that the position of veganism. I mean, maybe there is a grade level 8 vegan who would say that no suffering, no animal suffering, but I would say majority is somewhere in the middle and would say, okay, minimize the suffering, even the animal suffering, just like you would like to minimize the human suffering, minimize the animal suffering as well. Find a middle ground somewhere, basically, right?
Yeah, the only reason vegans are such is because they recognize the sentience and therefore the rights that come along with it, right? And if plants were recognized to have sentience, then a consistent vegan will also recognize plants to have rights that come along with it, right? But and if you have the principle of harm reduction or necessity, where in circumstances of survival you can indeed kill sentient beings, then just like animals were given that exception where you can't kill a chicken to survive, well, the same thing will apply to plants. You can kill a plant to survive, right? So I don't see exactly what the issue is. It'll just be that a really, really ethical person will who's thinking about what he's eating to survive, he will try to. It might seem very, very calculated and difficult to live by, but he will be trying to at least make an attempt to minimize the suffering to everything, to plants, to animals, and if tomatoes suffer, for example, and grapes suffer, and aubergines suffer, maybe there could be a way to figure out which one suffers the least, which one gives the most calories. How can I cook things in a way that the fruits and vegetables that suffer the most don't get inflicted that harm? That would be the ethical philosophy that emerges, right? It won't be, oh, tomatoes can suffer, therefore let's kill a cow. That seems dishonest.
Exactly.
That seems dishonest. People who come up with this plant argument, they're not doing it out of care. They're doing it so that they can continue killing cows, so that they can eat burgers at McDonald's.
All right. I think Haley wanted to add something to it. I think. Haley, what do you have to add?
Yeah, I was just. I'm not going to go into too much detail, but I'll hint at an ethics paper that I was just recalled of. I reminded of. Madan, have you read or are you aware of the ethics paper that Peter Singer wrote about everyone being immoral? Nobody is moral actually, or how immoral we are.
I think I may have heard of it, but it's
the one
like maybe it's just a deja vu kind of. Yeah.
The one where he has proven that anything anyone actually does, it's immoral.
Right.
Because of the fact that there are people who are suffering. Are you aware of it?
Yeah, I think I've heard him make a similar point before, but I've not read that specific paper now.
I was just reminded of it because the kind of point you were making. I was saying, okay, maybe Peter Singer might disagree with that, but yeah, I mean, generally I do agree with you. Everything you said,
right?
I do agree with you, and you have already mentioned the necessity principle, where even if plants do have feelings, then based on reducing the overall harm, we might still decide, okay, since we have to consume in order to survive, then it's necessary to consume something, and since eating plants might cause less harm than eating animals, then we would choose to eat plants.
Yeah, that's another way to frame it. Yeah, exactly. And anybody who's listening to this thinking that we sound crazy, it's only because it's a crazy proposal. If you think it sounds crazy, we agree. It's because we know plants are very likely not to suffer until and unless strong, robust science comes out tomorrow to tell us otherwise. Until then, the general leaning is that quite strongly plants probably don't suffer, and nowhere near like anything like humans. They don't have a consciousness. Right? They're not thinking, self-reflecting, understanding, cognitive beings. They're not planning things, and they don't feel pain. Pain, a noxious experience, is not something that they can have. So, if we're thinking about the idea that tomatoes might have rights one day, it's only because of the absurd theistic proposal that they're proposing that tomatoes do feel pain. But if they did, then as Kylie said, then we may need to calculate what's the best way to live. And one of the best ways to live might be that we can still have to continue to eat plants to survive, or something else. But it'll be a new way of living entirely than our current status quo. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if we could have somehow genetically modify humans to have chlorophyll in our bodies, and so we could synthesize sunlight directly, maybe that could be a solution. But of course, that's just sci-fi.
Basically, and kill our taste buds.
Oh yeah, I mean, we might still have all those cravings, but yeah, maybe we might have medicine for that.
Yeah, maybe generate cravings for chlorophyll.
Yeah, or sunlight, basically.
Sunlight, basically. All right.
Well, soon it's going to be the case that we are going to be able to artificially generate lots of stuff. It seems to be the case.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, we could, for example, we could so the artificially generated, synthesized meat that is being researched quite a lot now. So if we are able to solve that problem, then and I think there's been a lot of research and a lot of progress in that. And if that is possible, then we might be able to solve this problem.
Yeah.
And at least you see, I just want to point out that, you see, Muslims have a big problem with this. So right now they could say, we have, we have to do this and all that. But let's say that we are able to synthesize meat in a lab going forward. Let's say in 5 years, Muslims cannot. There might be other religions as well who might have this problem. The problem is that Muslims do not only allow eating meat, but they have an annual festival that requires them to slaughter animals. So they would still be obliged to carry out that particular deed, to slaughter these goats, despite the fact that even if the whole world is eating synthesized meat, even then they'll have to do that, and that is a problem for them. So they'll have to continue to justify meat eating even at that point in time.
Yeah.
Can you have like futuristic AI robotic artificial meaty goats or something like that?
There are fatwas, because in slaughterhouses, whenever you're slaughtering an animal, you have to say Bismillah and Allah Akbar. You have to take Allah's name.
Right.
So some of the slaughterhouses actually tried to put it on a recorder, right? Maybe on a speaker,
Yeah,
on
it
automatic.
runs.
Automatically runs
just
Allah
reruns,
Akbar,
keep
Allah Akbar,
reading,
and
yeah. Keeps rerunning,
But
right.
the ulama gave the fatwa that this is not allowed. No, there should be a person who says it. So they have to employ a person who sits there, whose only job is to say Allah Akbar while the animals are being slaughtered. He's not even
Right.
slaughtering them, because the slaughtering is being carried out by the machines. He just will sit there and just says Allah Akbar, Allah Akbar. So it's a good
Right.
job if it's if that person is being paid well.
Right. Yeah, I think this is a we're going into deeper topics. Okay, let's get
Yeah, of
back
course.
to
Yeah, let's not go. Yeah, let's get back.
80% of the crops that we grow go towards feeding livestock. So we're killing more.
Excellent point.
All right, sorry guys, just wanted to.
I would say excellent point by the lady.
Yeah. Go ahead.
She actually used Mansur's point against him.
Exactly. All right. So what I wanted to do was I paused it because, of course, Mansur made a point and then you responded to it. But I wanted to remind our viewers who are gonna watch this stream later on, how many ever of you are there, please subscribe to our new English only channel. You can see the link and the banner as well as in the comment section. I have highlighted the comment. So please subscribe. The channel is called Unveiling Faith, and it's youtube.com/@unveiling faith, basically. And what this channel is going to be about, what exactly we are doing it. Three of us are going to be there on that channel, and that channel is mostly going to be kind of, you can say, more philosophy oriented than our Hindi Urdu streams have been. And so Madan is gonna be one of the main host would be Madan, basically, and then of course two of us would be there as well. So we're gonna tackle more and more kind of deeper philosophical questions or arguments, or even review videos over there, basically, right? So I can't say review. Can I say review? Yes, I can say. Okay. So guys, you heard me, right? And let's get back to the video.
You're actually dealing with something that look. Let's talk about the understanding of veganism and carnivorism and so on, carnival or whatever, right? So veganism, is it linked with some kind of belief system?
It's the belief that these animals are not here on this planet for us to use or exploit unnecessarily, right?
Did God intend us to be vegans?
So you're not sacrificing anything by going vegan. You're just not taking what was never yours to begin with.
Now I want to know whether this is actually linked to an ideology. Has God created human beings to be vegans?
I don't believe in God myself.
So it seems like every vegans I'm speaking to, they have an ideology of not believing in a God. So it's actually linked to a belief in the non-existence of a God, isn't it? So veganism seems to be okay. Hang on, are you a vegan?
Oh my God!
Do you believe in God? Right. So
pause it.
Yeah.
What is wrong with Mansur? Does he have a brain in his head or not? I mean, the kind of
I
logic
think
that he's trying to
Mansur
employ
is one
over
of a
here.
kind, basically. Mansur is one of a kind.
Oh my God. I mean, I don't have too much to say, but I mean, it's crazy.
He's probably, I think he's been eating a specific type of plant too much. You know, one that is legal in Amsterdam,
What do you call that? It's,
but banned in the UK.
He's smoking it actually.
merry-go-round? Merry-go-round?
Yeah.
Is that the
Yeah,
plant
he's
you're thinking
consuming it.
about?
Yeah. Yeah, he's consuming it in a gaseous form, I guess.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I mean, horrible. Yeah. So your ideology, if you're a God-fearing believer, then you should eat meat. You should kill animals, right? Of course. But since you don't believe in God, you're vegan. Wow.
Actually, you could see where Mansur was trying to go. He was like, did God intend us to be, vegans?
Yeah, I mean,
I think, and I
he's
think he
going to
wanted to say
DCT
then,
basically.
well, if he intended us to be vegans, then we would not have this digestive system which could actually digest meat, or maybe we would not have
Uh,
canines, which
yeah,
which are
canines,
associated or
digestive
linked with
system, and all those
all
things.
these links, all those
Yeah,
links.
and
Yeah, of course.
yeah,
So yes, that is the kind of logic that he was trying to employ. But when she told that she does not believe in God, well, immediately all the vegans are now. Seems to be linked with not believing in God. Great. Why can't someone have a religion? So there are Jains, there are Hindus who are vegans.
right.
So it's
Yeah,
I mean, the
most
kind
of
of
the
logic that he has forgotten an entire, I don't know, the country of people, which is the second largest country in the world, which is, I guess,
right.
the most number of vegans probably.
Yeah, I mean,
So then,
majority of Indians, majority of Hindus, I would say. I don't know, probably especially in South India, probably majority vegetarians at the very least, right? And of course, they believe in different sorts of gods, pretty much, right? And yeah, I mean, it's what kind of that argument it is, basically. I don't know. He's probably just had a brain fade, basically. Just a temporary, momentary loss of memory, pretty much, right? He didn't
I think
recognize that there.
Yeah, I think Mansur is kind of realizing that her argument is that in certain circumstances it's okay to kill animals, but save for those circumstances. Apart from those circumstances, it's not. And if they don't arise, then you can't, right? And he's finding it difficult, therefore, to in a secular, completely analytical, logical conversation, defeat that principle without bringing in God, right? Because if he goes down the line of talking about ethics now, he would probably have to concede that it's wrong. This is why he eventually had to come out with the concept of plants. He was then rebutted on the plant objection. I think she said that more plants are consumed during the livestock, yeah, and so on, feeding the animals. So now he's run out of all ammunition. What else can he say in that circumstance? This is the last resort, which is the reason
he's being slowly cornered,
yeah,
and then he's trying to, still defend himself with one
yeah.
thing or the other. This is
Guess
probably
what? That is
last remaining shot, pretty much.
That is both the first and last resort. The first, because in principle, it is the first reason that Muslims should give, I think, is because God said so, because they believe in divine command theory, right? But in many conversations that I've had with very religious people, is that they do start off talking about it critically and logically. And when they run out of arguments, it eventually turns to, all right, God said so, right? That we were designed to, or there's a teleological purpose, or digestive systems, or if it was so wrong, then why did God command us? Or God created all of these animals for us to eat, and if it was wrong, he would have said otherwise, but he didn't. So because if you go down secular arguments, things to explain, explain give a moral reason, a harm related reason, the vegan will cut you out until that point. You deploy that. So I think he's at that point, yeah. In his theatrical performance, where he seems like he wants to be in lead, he's just been pushed into a corner, and he just thought, all right, let's talk about God. No, that's what's
Exactly.
happening. Yeah.
I think
Yeah, I
he's still
think
be. I think his logic is still better than Mufti Yasir's logic, because if you recall, Philo, the kind of logic he was using, those were quite.
he-
I don't know what word should I use. Um, those were even worse than Mansur's actually. So
yeah,
he
I
was trying
think
to justify, but the good thing was that the very first argument that he gave was he employed divine command theory. He said, well, God has commanded us to do this, and therefore it is allowed. That's what he said.
right, exactly. Yeah, I think yeah, DCT had to jump in here somehow, basically, in Mansoor's argument, basically. Okay, this is just my God's command. You're not forbidden from eating meat. So here I am, perfectly fine by me. I think, but
The
then
only
that
problem is,
leads into different problem. Yeah,
yeah, exactly. The
yeah,
only problem is then they'll have to, then they cannot argue against any other moral framework just on the basis of any moral ruling. And that is the argument that he presented in our Urdu stream as well. That if that is the play game that you want to play, then that it is allowed because God has commanded it so, and so you need no further justification for it, and God needs no justification for him allowing this brutality, I would say, and even making this food chain where one animal has to eat another. Then if that is the game that you want to play, then you cannot criticize any religion on the basis of their moral rulings or the moral framework, because Muslims do criticize other religions on the basis of the rulings that they have. So for example, if they criticize Christianity because of the fact that there are certain events um, ordered, commanded by God, where they had to kill an entire tribe. Well, you cannot say
yeah.
anything
For
because God
example,
commanded it,
Canaanites or something.
canonize and
Yeah,
all that. The one that we
yeah.
discussed quite
Just wanted to
in
plug in our yeah.
yeah, the last
Just
stream.
wanted to plug in our stream.
Exactly.
Basically, anybody
So
wants to
Muslims,
see that
yeah,
stream?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So
Go
do
ahead,
check it out.
Kelly. Sorry.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So this is, if that is the kind of logic that you want to use, then you cannot argue against Hinduism. Muslims often raise the objection of casteism. That Muslim Hindus have a caste system and therefore it is wrong and all that. You cannot use that logic. Then you cannot criticize any religion on the basis of the moral rulings that they have. A religion could have moral rulings, as brutal at you could conceive of. You know, you can. It could be, as brutal as anyone can conceive of, but still you cannot say that on the basis of this ruling or the kind of ruling that is this religion have, this cannot be from God. No, you cannot claim that. You'll have to judge it on the basis of something else. So I think
Right.
there
No,
then
at this
Muslims have to
point,
give up that
Kelly.
that approach then.
Yeah, Kelly. At this point, probably what they'll resort to is if you made that objection to them, basically, right? Then probably their next line of response would be that okay, but then those are not the true religions. Basically, they're the only true religion is our religion, and we can prove it. So now the question
Yeah,
is
yeah.
whose religion is right, basically.
But that is the question
Once
then. That's what I'm trying to say.
yeah, then you'll
Muslims,
reach
I've
the
seen
very
Muslims, yes. Yeah, that's
yeah
a different game then. But I've seen
yeah.
Muslims
No, I
just
agree. I
discussing
agree.
this with Hindus and Christians and raising that as a criticism on their religion. You cannot criticize a religion based on that if you're
Yeah,
using
I
DCT.
mean, from an absolute perspective, you cannot unless until you go down to that very root of okay, now come to talk and see whose religion is the right religion or whose God is the true God, basically. Yeah, and but
Yeah, yeah.
until you do that, you cannot just criticize it. Pretty much, yes, I agree. Madan, you want to add something? Shall we move on?
No, let's just see what he says.
Two vegans. Any other vegans who believes in God? Right. So now we are actually coming to a point where veganism seems to be a particular ideology now in this time, driven by atheism, agnosticism. So, hang on. Why is it that I don't see any believer in God among you? Then I will make some arguments after that.
Religion has no bearing in the argument against animal use and
I just established that there seems to be a link already. Any other vegans here who believe in God? Sorry?
I believe in a divine creator.
Are you a vegan?
Yeah.
Good. So if your God tells you to eat animals, would you do so?
God doesn't tell me to eat animals.
Oh, So which God is that tells you not to eat animals?
God tells you to eat
No, you're
about consciousness.
wait. So you say you believe in a God. In where has your
Divine creator.
wait a minute? Where has your divine creator communicated with you that
Speak about flat earth. You argue about
one moment? Another red herring argument. Flat Earth. What does banana and flat Earth have to do with veganism here? So my friend, sister, one second. Because now you made a point that you are actually believing in a divine creator, where your divine creator has mentioned to you that you should stop eating animals.
You should know. You should know with your consciousness.
I'm asking you. So where has he mentioned that?
There's no mention. You should understand.
So, so it's your own made-up belief.
Have you not seen an animal cry because it loses?
Enough said. Any other vegans who believe in God?
Are you vegan? Are you vegan?
No, I am not vegan, but I can be.
Why are you vegan?
Okay, I'll tell you why I'm not vegan. Even though I'm against animal suffering, even though I'm against all this overproduction of food and so on and so forth, you know, you don't have to eat animals. You can actually have all the proteins, as I mentioned to you, from plant-based. But why I'm not vegan is because I am not designed to be a vegan. Look at your teeth. You've got teeth designed to chew meat. You've got enzymes in your stomach designed to what? Digest animal proteins. So in your body, even from biology, you are not designed to be a herbivore.
Can you pause it? Yeah. So, yeah, he's made some factually incorrect statements there. I mean, the canines actually, there's a multifaceted set of theories posited why we have canines, all the way from defending ourselves against other apes at a time when, well, prior to human beings, really, right? The canines was like a weapon to, yes, tearing up meat, but tearing up anything, like anything that's hard material. So there's no specific sort of explanation behind the presence of canines that are well known or well established. Some ideas do sketch the idea that do posit that it's due to meat consumption, but there's no like foregone conclusion on it. And that is one kind of open-ended speculative area, ongoing area that we don't really have any confirmed evidence for. Evolutionary psychologists, evolutionary biologists together don't have a complete answer to the exact reasons why canines evolved, right? And similarly, the enzymes that you have to digest what he's saying, and we have enzymes to digest meat. Here's the thing that he misrepresents. We have enzymes to digest proteins. We don't have enzymes specifically designed to digest meat. We don't know that. It could be that could be the case unless there's more scientific evidence shifting in the direction of confirming that. Then I'll change my mind. Until then, you have to be agnostic, right? At this moment, all we know is that these enzymes seem to be specially evolved to digest certain proteins. Those proteins are also available in plants. Okay, so it's not as though they evolved per se, specifically tailored to digest meat proteins versus.
Madan, what I'm saying is, let's steelman their position, his position. Let me just finish.
Let me just finish what I'm saying. So it's not known that those things were evolved for that specific purpose, right? But even if they were, let's say, evolved for, well, the thing is, things don't just evolve for a single purpose. It does. Evolution comes on a trajectory, and you have different sort of shifts. The purposes change. It gets readopted and implemented in a particular area. It could very well be that the evolution of our enzymes evolved even differently and became more specialized when our diets became predominantly meat or to somewhat meat-based, etc. I mean, I think that at this moment, the consensus is that we're omnivorous, we're not exclusively carnivorous, we're not herbivores. We can have a mixed palate. So it's not the case that we specifically evolved for those particular reasons. And so on. But even if that was the case, the certain objections that you can make here is that first of all, evolution is merely a descriptive theory. It doesn't tell you what you ought to do. There's plenty of things, plenty of ways that we have evolved, right? We've evolved to have potentially xenophobic beliefs against the other kin. The other clan, right? In-group, out-group rivalries. We are xenophobic when we see people who don't look like us. We're more prone to having racist beliefs. There is a possible biological component to that. Also, we have an evolutionary basis to explain, for example, cognitive biases, such as availability bias, probabilistic biases, plenty of optical illusions. None of those are correct, so to speak. Yeah, they distort our thinking. So clearly, whatever we have evolved for doesn't necessarily form the basis of a moral theory, right? There are, in the history of evolution, we've used cannibalism has played a role. It does not, let's say that you can make you can say that cannibalism was an evolutionary evolved strategy. Again, that's disputable. But let's say that was the case, right? And there's plenty of other horrendous things in evolution that could be a similar. You can make a similar argument. That doesn't mean that we ought to perform cannibalism. Again, evolution is merely a descriptive theory, such as cancer occurs, such as electricity. Thunder produces electricity, but it doesn't. The fact that we know that thunder produces electricity doesn't mean we should promote the production of electricity through thunderstorms, or the fact that cancer can form through uncontrolled mutations and so on in the cells does not mean we advocate and promote and advertise cancerous cell growth, etc. We actually fight against it. So evolution is a descriptive theory, not a moral theory. So the mere fact that we evolve for something the only way he can make that argument is that if we evolve for that and it was necessary. But then whether you evolved or not evolved doesn't really add too much to the argument. If it was necessary today, whether we evolved or not to eat meat, that could still defeat the vegan position. That it was necessary to eat meat even for general consumption reasons to survive, right? Outside of survival situations, extreme survival situations, that is, like where you have to eat meat because there's no other alternative. But if you had to eat meat because there was no other alternative, you have to just eat meat. You can't get any fruits, you can't get any vegetables. Then whether or not we evolve for it or not doesn't really it doesn't really matter, right?
Right. Okay, I think you said
Yes,
what you said. What I wanted to say. Charlie, you want to go? Go ahead.
No, you want to say something? Because I have some comments to add.
Yeah. All I wanted to say was that even if it's considered that what he's saying is right. First thing first, you have to notice what the word he's using. Designed to. He's not using evolved to. Basically, he's not going to use that word because as soon as he uses the word evolution or evolved to, he's gonna, so he's pretty crafty on those terms. So he's using those terms. But see, the evolution doesn't work that way. Pretty much, you may have certain parts of your your certain parts might be evolving much faster than the other parts, basically. So your brain might be evolving much faster than probably your dietary system or the digestive system, pretty much. So you might still consume a plant-based diet, get good protein out of it, and you still might have canines, even if it's considered that your ancestors were probably needing canines for tearing apart meat and all that stuff, or tearing apart skin before they could get down to eating meat, basically, right? So that's one part, basically, right? I mean, that's why I think that what he's saying doesn't really fit in. Basically, we might have evolved our brains might have evolved much faster, and we don't probably need that. So, Kelly, you add what you want to add, then I'll add another point.
Yeah, what I'd say is this. His argument is not against. He's no longer talking to any a secular person. He is now talking to a believer. That's why we're looking for someone who believes in God. And we tried to argue with him because this argument, as you mentioned, is not against evolution. He's not making that argument because if that was the argument, then sorry, he will have to probably raise another point. He is dealing with people who are believers, and sorry, just give me a second. He's dealing with people who are believers, and who therefore he's appealing to the fact that a god would not put in us something which we will not be using. Okay, so for example, he's saying he placed in us these enzymes which are used for digesting proteins or meat, and therefore this means that we were made for this. I think, once again, even from a let's say a
That's
theistic
wrong.
perspective.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
wrong.
even from
Goosebumps.
yeah. Sorry.
Tailbones.
Exactly.
Goosebumps.
I was going to go over there. Even from a theistic perspective, you could argue that there are so many things in a human body that are not being used. So as you mentioned, tailbones. Even so our body makes you don't know how many different kinds of antibodies. Majority of them, 99.9999% of them, are never used because we do not encounter those particular viruses or bacteria for which those antibodies would be required. But our body, just as a backup, do make those. So why did our body make those? Our body, a male body, makes, I don't know how many millions of sperms on a daily basis. He does not need that. He does not need to impregnate a million ladies on a day, or or let's say from that million, there, let's say only few of them or a few thousand of them are, let's say, viable. A man cannot impregnate 1,000 or 10,000 women a day. What is the purpose of that? Does it mean that he should go around and mate with 10,000 women? No. Well, all of these could be argued, could be used by a theist as well. From an atheistic perspective, I can understand that this is nothing but a result of evolution, because evolution is not a perfect process. It will leads to overcompensation and undercompensation, and that is why there would be a lot of you would expect these kind of things in a human body or any kind of process that as a result of evolution. You would expect these kind of redundancies, overcompensation, undercompensation as a result of evolution. So I think that's something that even a theist could use, but
I
I
think
know from an
also,
atheistic perspective it's
yeah.
even more obvious.
I mean, I think also the idea that you have a biological function that gets turned on at certain times in itself isn't a good enough reason to say that the fact that you have a biological set of processes, functions, etc., means that it should be used. Even from a theistic perspective,
Right.
that's not the case, because if you get aroused sexually, for example, you're not supposed to act upon it because there's a moral principle.
Yeah.
You ought not do that. So it needs more. So in order for what's his name, Mansur, to make this argument, he can't just rely on the fact that since it's biological, therefore God intent. No, God puts lots of things in us that are biological. Some of those things he promotes and endorses. Other things he says minimize and don't do. And therefore,
it might be a test. It might be a test for us.
Yeah. So there's plenty of So the mere fact something is biological does not mean it's good. Even under basically Mansur's point is incomplete. What Mansur should be saying that it's not just incomplete; it's incorrect. The statement that God won't put in us something in our body if it wasn't right is completely wrong, because God puts in lots of things in our bodies. Some of those things, like the foreskin. Yeah. Right. So it's what is the deciding factor? Why is that wrong? Is it because it's in your body? No, because it's on your body, and no. Is it, if it was in your body, and if what made it right was it's in your body, then why is it something that's discarded? Well, it's not because of that. The reason it's wrong is nothing to do with your biology. The reason it's wrong is because God said there's an additional external force, something else that comes and tells you that it's wrong, right? According to Mansur's own theory, under his own theism. Therefore, Mansur is actually factually mischaracterizing divine command theory. It's not the case that something in your body makes it right. It's God makes it right, whether it's in your body or not, and He decides which one.
I think he's not stable in his own thoughts. Basically, he's just going here and there and just trying to see whatever's gonna stick on the wall, pretty much, you know.
Yeah.
And that's where he just went from DCT to, you know, these are the things in your body. I don't know where he's gonna end up, basically, but
Yeah.
let's see.
The reason I say this then is because we have, I mean, atheists and secularists and vegans, whether you're a secular vegan or theistic vegan, depends, can have potentially a similar sort of philosophy. I mean, just because something is biological doesn't make it right or wrong, right? Mansur agrees. Just because something is biological does not make it, in and of itself, makes it right or wrong. You know, God decrees what's right or wrong. Why?
Exactly.
And why? Because Mansur might say due to arbitrary divine command theory. Some other divine command theorists would say it's not because it's arbitrary, it's because God is benevolent and he recognizes something wrong, you know? So the reason that your foreskin should be removed, maybe because it's harmful to have it, right? So in the end, he has to explain it like that. And so it's not enough for Mansur to say that, well, you have enzymes and so on, and therefore it makes it right. He has to explain why it must be done, etc., in that sort of analysis type of thing. So in the end, they kind of meet in the middle, especially if you're a theist who believes in a compassionate God, who doesn't believe in an arbitrary divine command theory, because then he thinks this moral theory, the thing that's making the moral theory work is God's benevolence, and God won't command something as right or wrong unless it's truly right or wrong. In which case, it's not because it's biological, it's right. This is not Aristotelian teleology, where whatever is natural is correct, which is like the naturalistic fallacy, right? Divine command theory of this compassionate kind is more than that. It's saying
It's
that
beyond that, pretty much.
Yeah, and therefore you will have to explain it very similarly to how any secular moralist explains it, right? The only difference is God is the middleman, right? But in the end, God also identifies, or God also has to give reasons which analyzes things based on harm, compassion, right and wrong, etc. It's not enough to say it's biological, which Mansur is resorting to, basically.
Exactly. Yeah. Right. All right. We have, I think Callie dropped out. So Callie, if you're listening, I think it showed for a while that your device is not connected. So maybe fix your device and get back in. I think we will run it a little bit further and see where it's going, because I'm not quite sure. Madan, I think he seems to be pretty much running out of ideas, Mansoor. But let's hear out what he has to say. Before we move on, Callie, you want to add something, or?
No, nothing from my side.
All right, let's move on.
Designed to what? Digest animal proteins. So in your body, even from biology, you are not designed to be a herbivore.
Hold on, one second. Do you not believe we can live perfectly healthy lives living off plants?
Let's go back to the question again. No, hang on. Wait.
I forgot to mention one thing. Based on everything that I've said, therefore, Mansur shouldn't be talking about whether it's biological. Mansur shouldn't be talking about whether or not it's in our body. Mansur should be talking about what is it that God stipulates. Yeah. And if he believes in a non-arbitrary God, he should be trying to provide a moral reason that he recognizes, or he might say God has a moral reason, we're just not privy to it. That's what he should be doing. But if he believes in a non-arbitrary God, then ultimately it will boil down to some sort of deontological or utilitarian or harm analysis based argument as to why you should eat meat. If you believe in an arbitrary God, then he's already lost the game, because then he just admitted that his God is arbitrary and he has no good reason why eating meat must be the case. He just says it, right? So the only way he can win that is to say that God is a moral being, he's a benevolent being, and as a benevolent being, he requires that we must eat meat, right? Etc. And the mere fact that we have enzymes and so on, or our biology is oriented towards it, is not good enough not on its own, because like I said before, there's plenty of things in our biology that even Muslims would say the mere fact our bodies like this, predominantly like that, does not make it right. God is the ultimate arbiter as to why it's right or wrong. You know, we have a foreskin. Well, did God deliberately put that in there because it's God wouldn't? Could you apply the same logic? God wouldn't have given us a foreskin if He didn't want us to get rid of it.
Yeah, then you.
No.
Yeah, that's a question.
Yeah, exactly. So he will have to come up with some sort of harm analysis, and that's what they kind of do. They'll probably say that the foreskin has to be removed because God is a benevolent being, and we learn that for having the foreskin causes XY disease or whatever. They go down that route. So they need to make a harm sort of argument. But here's the thing. So let's skip to that then. Let's go to that. Is there any... This completely eviscerates all of his positions ultimately. What's the point of going to our history of humankind or biology and so what's the point of that? Well, it's trying to show that our bodies require meat. Not likes meat, not prefers meat, but requires it, because that's the only way you can make that case that we must eat meat to survive, right? But should we listen to Mansur, who is just coming out with things on the fly, making it up off the cuff? He's not a nutritionist. He's not a dietitian. He has no expertise in this. Or should we listen to the experts on this? Every single medical body, every single nutritionist society, the British Dietitian Society, or whatever it's called, American, Canadian, New Zealand, whatever, all of them, right? They all agree that a well-planned, well-organized, systematic, purely vegan diet is more than adequate at all stages of life, whether you're pregnant, whether you're going through adolescence, whether you're a child, whether you're a baby or an infant, whether you're elderly. An adequately planned vegan diet,
or even Mahadin, if you are an elite athlete, very much. There have been so many elite athletes, and I'll name one which probably most of the listeners and even the theists are aware of. What's his name? Novak Djokovic, right? He's a vegan, basically, right? And he's probably one of the oldest. He's already put his name in history books, pretty much, and he's a vegan, basically. Right? He goes on the plant diet, pretty much. And there have been many such names, right?
Bodybuilders.
We don't hear such names more often because that notion we haven't been able to shake off of our minds that to be a supreme athlete, you have to eat meat and plant-based or animal-based protein and all those things. And that's why we don't hear so many names. But, you can take one example, and that's more than enough that in future, if people really started thinking ethically about that thing, then there'll be more and more of such, basically. And they can compete at the same level pretty much without any...
Yes, I mean, I usually, it's good to give like individual examples and anecdotes because it gives it more color. I usually refrain from those because somebody might say that's just an exception or an anomaly, right? Is there a proper statistical comparison? If you have like a 1,100 or let's say 1,000 sample of 1,000 people who are predominantly having a vegan diet and a sample of 1,000 people predominantly having a kind of, or a mixed diet or something, are they equally healthy, etc.? It's not a proper test when you look at anecdotes. Yeah. So what I'm trying to say, your anecdotes are completely fine. I think your anecdotes are given more scientific verification when you have a number of systematic tests and studies, not just one or two studies, a large number of them where they've looked at. There was a Harvard study in 2015 of a well-planned, well-regulated, healthy meat-based diet. Well-planned, well-regulated, healthy meat-based diet versus a purely vegan diet, which was also well-planned and well-regulated, right? So even if you're having healthy meat consumption, compared to the study group that had purely vegan diet, the vegans were healthier. Lower case of diabetes, lower case of heart issues and cardiovascular problems, and lower body weight, etc. They're perfectly healthy, if not more healthy. Right, and there's numerous other studies showing that, and these studies vindicate what you're saying, given the real life athlete examples, that these are not just anomalies. Right, you can have a vegan diet or a vegetarian diet and live not only a healthy life, you can surpass a healthy life and be a high achieving athlete. Yeah.
Exactly. Yes. I mean, I agree. I think both are needed pretty much, well-founded studies as well as I agree. I mean, just giving one example might, make somebody feel, oh no, but the statistics. But that's why I said that these are so heavily tilted towards, meat eating guys, because that we haven't been able to free ourselves from those old shackles that, if you to be a supreme athlete, that you have to, consume more meat, basically, right? That's been the set formula for ages, pretty much, right? But slowly it's been changing, basically, because of the awareness, pretty much, right? And then people have, yeah.
And what this shows is that now, I mean, historically, it might have been the case that we needed meat given the circumstances, given the lack of availability, given the desperation, given the stage of evolution, whatever you want to call it, right? But now, given our technological enhancements and the availability of lots of nutrition, it's unnecessary. And guess what? Muslims think like that too, right? In the history of humankind, there was a time where some Muslims, let me give you a very common example. There was a time where slavery was the case, and some Muslims would say that's no longer the case today, right? Similarly, there was a time where let's just go with Mansur's body example. There was a time where we had to manually do things to a large extent. Nowadays, due to technological revolutions, we're working in factories and so on. So we made a huge improvement to our production, the safety of workers, the efficiencies by working in factories and using the industry gadgets and so on. Right? This has been an improvement to humanity in many respects. So we've disbanded these old sort of very, very physical manual labor type jobs. Not all of it, but a lot of it. Right? So the mere fact that our bodies, but Mansur could have said something similar. Oh, look, well, God created us with muscles, so we should not allow or entertain this new technological development of working in factories or working in situations where we can use machineries as a conduit to create products, right? Because God gave us muscles, God gave us a physical body, God gave us hands and so on to pick things up, rocks. So we should just stay in those manual labor conditions. No, it's Muslims think that's absurd. Of course, yeah, God did give you that at some point for that purpose. But now that we found a way to get around that and make things more efficient, more productive, we no longer need to do that. And there's nothing wrong with that, right? So even Muslims accept the idea that certain things in your body that was relevant to one circumstance in history is no longer relevant when time goes on, when there's a substitute. Well, there you go, la-di-da. We have the same reality with vegans. We can make the same argument. There might have been a time, right, where we did need to digest meat with using those enzymes. But now, looking at, we don't need to, digest using those enzymes, meat proteins. We can just digest plant proteins. And the studies suggest that this can be done in a healthy way. So who cares that in history of time, in history of humanity, once upon a time we had to do that, right? So,
Right.
I just don't see why he's not thinking about it like this.
And it's possible that evolution might catch up to these changes. I mean, see, it is not possible to for evolution to catch up to these changes, as soon as these changes happen. Some places, some changes are happening rapidly. Maybe, let's say, our brain is evolving much faster than certain other parts, and probably it is the case that the other parts will catch up to it eventually. Basically, if you're talking about the length of your intestines, or maybe even the digestive juices and all those things, maybe slowly their pH is gonna reduce to a level where it might be just good enough for plants only. Who knows? But yeah,
I mean, I think Mansur, like you guys said before, Mansur isn't relying on evolution. I think he's not saying evolved, but any serious theist has to grapple with the scientific facts. And
exactly.
any serious theist has to grapple with the fact that if God did create us, he created us through evolution. And through evolution, it doesn't say there's a singular purpose to things. Lots of organs have they're multi-purpose. Some of them they have more, or they've one or more functions, or they've evolved new functions on top of functions, or the functions have modified and readapted. and some functions have gone out of use, and they become dysfunctional or redundant. They're vestigial organs, right? And furthermore, although the rate of evolution can change, and has changed given the rate of reproduction, because evolution is governed by birth rates and death rates and so on, and so on, and given that it's slowed down to some extent, it is not. It hasn't been impeded. We're still evolving, and it's very. And the idea that we have to go back to human history at one arbitrary point of time, like during the savannah, and say that is how we were at that point, and therefore we must abide by that way of living. It's silly when we are, although albeit slowly, still evolving. And the mere fact of, as you just said, the mere fact that we've now noticed a vegan way of living is capable, that is going to then feed back into our evolution, right? How it's going to happen, we don't know. And it may very well be the case that our digestive systems will once again change, particularly when we have other alternative ways of eating and where we don't have to eat meat. We will probably, over time, evolve in a completely different manner. And so any serious theist has to grapple with that fact, because if they're trying, it's no longer appropriate to talk in biological essentialist terms like that anymore, right? Because evolution is still a ever-changing fluid process.
Exactly. Yeah. All right, Kelly, you want to add something, or let's move on? What do you guys think? Shall we keep it short? Maybe whenever you guys want, maybe we can just close the stream. Kelly.
Usually a 2-hour mark is good enough generally, and it's long enough. It's up to you guys. What do you guys think?
All right, let's listen to what Mansur has to say after this point, and if there's nothing of substance, then maybe we'll just shut the stream, right?
If you're looking for substance, we should have closed the stream quite early.
Right. I agree. Let's see if he has any further point that we can pick on, basically, right?
I know.
Yeah.
You seem to think veganism. I'm not shouting. I'm making everyone to hear. Can everyone hear? Good. Thank you. Is veganism something that is of choice? Then you can be a vegan by your choice, or you don't have to be vegan by your choice. Do I have the choice? Moral. When it comes to morality, do you believe in objective morality? Then what's the point? You're talking for.
All right. So Mansur has thrown another set of dice, basically. This is last chance, basically. I don't know. I think we should.
Yeah, the last chance.
There is no morality.
Objective morality.
Yeah. Every single topic boils down to this one, right? Oh no, child marriage. There is no objective morality. Basically, the idea, it's like it's a infinitely deployable elastic card in every debate, where you can no longer engage in a moral conversation based on general moral principles. So you just nuclear bomb everything out the window, and you just say there is no morality. You don't have any moral ground to say anything, and that gets boring very quickly, right?
Yeah, I mean, see, the point here is what Mansur is gonna say ahead of. I can just clarify that to anybody who's listening. People can go and watch this stream. I think we're probably gonna just shut the stream at this point, if you guys are okay with it. But the same point again and again that we keep hearing. You don't have any objective morality. I can criticize it, and my values are superior just because I have objective morality, and you are subjective moralist or relative moralist and all those things, right? So you can't criticize it. You don't have a good enough moral ground, at least not as good enough as mine, basically. So yeah, this is like age-old card that theists have been playing. I don't know if you guys want to add.
In fact, we have a video already on this. We already have a video of Mansur on objective morality on our new channel. Maybe you can show it. show it up, bring it up as well.
Kelly, your
Just
voice
for
was
audience.
breaking for me. I don't know if it was
Maybe
breaking
they
for
can
Mahadan as
enjoy
well.
that video as well.
Just for 5 seconds,
Same
it
old.
broke. Yeah.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah. It just broke for like 5 seconds or so in between.
Can you
I don't know if
understand me?
it
Okay.
was only for me. Or... Just repeat what you said.
Okay. So I'll just
The
repeat what I
Mansur's
said.
video, right?
I said that we already have a video on objective morality. In which we are responding to Mansur's point on which is similar on objective morality, and we have that video up on our new English channel. So maybe you can bring it up and show it to our audience, so that maybe they might be interested in listening to that, and we can link that video to this video then, so that people can enjoy that discussion.
I think I'll show it. I uploaded it on our new channel, so I'll show it to you on our new channel. Can you guys see it? It's the second one after the William Lane Craig. That's the one basically. Shall I zoom it in further? Maybe. Let's see. All right. That's the one. That's the clip, but there's a whole stream on a few arguments from Mansur. So you can see that as well in our current channel. And this one that I'm showing is on the new channel, basically, right? And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to plug in the link to that new channel, English only channel. So you'll find all those golden nuggets over there. And then you'll find those over on this channel as well. But slowly, probably maybe over a month or two, when we have sufficient, subscribers on the English only channel, maybe then we'll only have like 2 separate English only on that new channel and Hindi Urdu on this channel. So, but as Kelly said, that's the video you want to watch. Basically, that's the video clip you want to watch. Or if you want to watch the whole stream, then you'll have to find it on this Philo Sapiens channel, basically. All right, I think maybe we should just close the stream. Maybe unless until we had someone really maybe had a few good callers, we could have taken them, but we don't, unfortunately, and so we'll close the stream. All right, guys.
Do you just quickly see what he actually says? Skip through it, because
sure.
It's like the video that,
sure.
Half of the video.
Yeah, we'll listen to that part. Okay.
Just speed it up and just listen to it. What he's saying. Yeah.
A relative moral standpoint. I may have a higher moral standard than you if I believe in an objective morality.
We have, as a society, we have an overall basis. We know it's wrong to rape, we know it's wrong to steal, we know it's wrong to murder, right? So now we can pass that down onto sentient creatures that are causing us no harm. Why would we murder, torture, and enslave them when we don't need to? We don't need to be eating them. We don't need to be using them. We don't need to be testing them. They're not for our entertainment. I'm just talking. Right? They're living creatures. Why are you so arrogant that you can think you can just arbitrarily take their life away from them when they're causing you no harm? Like, you do not need to eat them. You can live perfectly healthy lives living off plants. That is the end of the argument. There's no argument against veganism. I don't even know why you're bothering.
Let's see. That really shows you the level of intellectual argumentation that you're bringing in the discussion. The only honest argument against veganism is that if you don't give a
shit.
Right. So that speaks of your intellectual argumentation level. Never mind. So my point is this. So basically, you are against those people who take the lives of animals unnecessarily. And animals, they take the life of another animal because of necessity. Yeah. So now you can look at your argument. If you take the life of another animal out of necessity, you're saying I don't have a problem with that.
I can't control what wild.
No. If human beings live on animal meat out of necessity, you're saying you don't have a problem with that.
No, I mean, I prefer that they move. Because
no, it's not prefer. Your argument now has totally crumbled. I don't understand how your argument was in the first place. If you're saying it's all about necessity. If someone eats animal out of necessity, you're saying it's okay.
Do you need to
wait a moment. Excuse me. I want to understand the argument again. If someone consumes meat out of necessity, why is that okay? Why is that okay? You're still taking life of another animal, life of another sentient being, according to your definition, life of another animal which feels and experiences pain. Why? Would you have it? Can you ask again?
Pause it.
If you are willing to accept the eating of animals out of necessity.
Is it just me? Just Mansur funnier when he's really talking really fast like this? Yeah. Yeah. It's actually funny watching it. It's like slapstick Charlie Chaplin comedy, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Like I think Mansur would be a very good Charlie Chaplin, right? If you had a cash.
I think one thing that Mahadin you said, I
And
think
I think
I don't wanna derail the whole
anything.
thing, and we want
Sorry,
to close this thing.
and I think. Can you hear me, Philo?
Yeah,
Yes,
sure.
I'm saying that a
Kelly, go ahead.
quieter, since Charlie Chaplin is a silent movie, I think it would even be better.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I think I wanted to go somewhere. Probably I would derail. I just wanted to mention I went to their channel, and I think what you mentioned earlier in our whole review process, that he controls the major part of the conversation, and he doesn't let you even talk pretty much, right? And you'll see that again and again and again and again, pretty much. Probably in probably later half or later, 1/4 of this conversation, he let others talk, but otherwise he wasn't letting anybody talk pretty much, right? So that's always gonna happen. So anybody who goes to have a conversation at Dao Vice channel or any other place, Speakers Corner, wherever Mansur is present, you'll have to make sure that you don't let him command the conversation. Basically, don't let him be the driver on the driver's seat, pretty much.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
Mansur's gone full circle now. He's gone back to his first and original argument. And haha, vegan, you make an exception to your own principle, but it was never an exception to the principle. And it's the same things that we said in the first place, that everybody has rules that sometimes there are exceptions to. It's the same damn thing. So it's a bit like saying, oh, so wait, you're saying, Muslim, you're saying that it's wrong to eat pork. Is it wrong to eat pork? Is it all right? Oh, wait. You can eat pork when it's necessary to eat pork. Oh my God! Therefore, you've already violated your own principle. Then you've already said that it's not. You said it's wrong to eat pork, but now you're saying it's right to eat pork. That's not an argument, right? Because he never said it's wrong to eat pork. And the only way you can show a contradiction is if you say it's wrong to eat pork in all circumstances, and then the person proceeds to say, apart from this circumstance, then you can say you violated your own principle, right? But if you're and it's a principled stance. I mean, some people can just build. I'm not talking about hypocrisy. Sometimes you can build into the principle an exception that is hypocritical. So sometimes you can say, for example, that it's wrong to eat pork, and then build an exception which is intelligently built into the principle, so it doesn't look like hypocrisy, but it is hypocrisy, right? But then you have to show that you're playing with words. You've said it's wrong to eat pork in most circumstances, apart from a circumstance in which is similar to all other circumstances, right? So you made an exception which is similar to all other circumstances, and it's an arbitrary exception, and therefore there'll be a hypocrisy built into it. But that's not what Mansur's doing. Mansur's just straightforwardly saying any exception, a non-arbitrary exception, is inconsistent. No, it's not. A principled exception, a non-arbitrary principled exception, is not hypocrisy and it's not inconsistent. And I agree in the case of pork, it's a non-arbitrary exception. Pork is haram for XYZ reasons, but in certain other circumstances, the priority that it tries to achieve by violating the principle is more important, which is that in life and death circumstances. In life and death circumstances, the necessity of continuing life is more important than just eating a bit of pork, right? Again, there's a principled exception, and therefore, a similar principled exception exists in the case of vegans, when vegans can say the necessity of surviving allows you to eat other animals sometimes. So we've already gone through this, but I just want to reiterate it.
No, I think I wholeheartedly agree with all that you have said. And yes, Kelly, you want to add something to it? Otherwise, we just close the stream.
No. Mahadin is right. It's just he has come full circle and he's just making the same argument.
Yeah,
We've already dealt with it.
Right. But yeah, I think we should we should do a little bit more of Mansur. At least that's why I said when we were talking about which ones to pick, I thought this one had more meat to talk about at least.
Yeah.
Other
I'm
than
actually
that,
thinking,
probably we'll
yeah.
probably
No,
go ahead,
I was
Nadine.
gonna say, I mean, I believe the rest of the video probably has a lot more vegan-related arguments. I think we might be being a bit premature to stop it, but maybe we can have a part two if you guys can't.
Yeah, I mean, we can do part two. I think I saw that there were a few more conversations Mansur had with vegan activists or somebody else. I couldn't get to listen to all of them because we decided at the last hour pretty much. So, but we can go through and probably we can even finish this and maybe, or otherwise we can take some others as well if we find something more interesting in those pretty much, right? So yeah. All right. All right. Thank you, everybody. Before we leave, though, sincere request for you. Just read the banner first, right? And what it says is please subscribe to our new English-only channel, which is, it's Faith Unveiled. Unveiling Faith, rather. Unveiling Faith is the channel. The link you should see. And subscribe, share this content on this channel as well for the timing. And when this stream gets uploaded on the next new channel, do the same on that channel as well. And also, if you want, you can support us at Buy Me a Coffee or on Patreon as well as through super chats and all those things that you can see are there. If you do that, they'll definitely motivate us. I think same is true for every other channel, right? I mean, unless until we are motivated, probably, it's going to be hard for us to keep doing streams. But anyways, I have blabbered a lot. Thank you both, Madan and Khali. It was after a long time we did a stream and it was really nice stream. So for everybody else, ciao and see you guys later next time. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.